Welcome to the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast. Tune in every Thursday as we share inspirational stories from the world's greatest creators, entrepreneurs, and go-getters about how they've turned life's lemons into lemonade. And now, here's your host of Lemonade Stand Stories, Charan Prabhakar.
What's going on, guys? This is Charan Prabhakar with the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast, and I'm here with a very delightful human being right across from me. His name is Eric Osmond. We had the pleasure of meeting a few years ago, and I'll tell you what, Eric is a talented individual, and I'm not just stroking his ego. He really is a talented individual. To me, Eric defines what a true artist is, because all of the things that you do, like whether it's music, it's film, bodybuilding for a bit, motivational speaking, you've just been like a really positive light and like a really encouraging, just like a really good, encouraging soul. But I remember what was so cool was we worked on a commercial together. And I feel like on that commercial that we really connected even more on a deeper level. And I remember being like, man, not only is Eric such a talented man, he's got a real depth to him. And from that depth, I know you created like all kinds of cool things and artistries and whatnot. But then, and we're going to go into this too, I was watching The Chosen, season 2, episode 4, and I got to see you in that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Eric's also in The Chosen. This is fantastic. We share that as well. Not the same episode, but anyway, so it was really fun to like see you in there and to see you do your, we were just discussing what kind of accent it was. It was like some sort of European accent. I'm not entirely sure what that was, but say it again. What would you call it?
The technical term was an attempt to hit transatlantic, and it made a little change. But
yeah, dude, it was amazing. but dude, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. Like, this has been so fun, and the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast is all about people's lemonade stand stories. So like their beginnings into whatever entrepreneurship or creators or acting or producing or whatever it is. So sure. I'd love to hear your story, because I know, your family were all entertainers. So did you grow up thinking I'm going to be an entertainer as well? Or was this something that you're like, I really want to do this because this is speaking to my soul?
Great question. So I was raised in the family, and as you said, like as a normal person.
Yes.
But just naturally, the quote unquote spotlight was like almost always on. So I wasn't, all of us, there's about 54 of us in the second generation. Mm-hmm. People don't know the exact number, but that's technically roughly, I think, close to it. And we're all assumed to be in the same spotlight as the first generation. And that's not always accurate, especially when there's only a handful of us in the second generation that carry on with the entertainment industry to a point.
Yeah.
Nothing like the first generation exactly. The one closest would probably be in Alan's family. So you got Nathan and David.
Yep.
And some of us like Tyler. Tyler's also in Alan's family. So and I can name off a whole bunch of my cousins that still do it, but we're always assumed to be entertainers. So we're kind of forced in a way to be in the spotlight. So by choice and by not by choice.
Yes, by choice and by not by choice.
Yeah.
But dude, like I don't know, like it's so interesting because I am friends with David and everything, but I remember like when I met you, it was great because you didn't, in my mind, you didn't typify like what I remember like Donny being or whatever, but like you had your own brand, you have your own voice. When did you decide I want to be an artist?
Oh, I think we're all artists. Only some of us admit it.
No, I like that. Yeah. That's so great.
I don't know. It just came out. Maybe that's what I said before.
Dude, no. It was great. So when did you admit to yourself you want to be an artist, that you were an artist?
As a kid, I mean, you immediately know when somebody says, oh, that's really good. Well, that's really good. If anybody has that kind of tone as a child, you're playing with blocks and you're like, oh man, this kid can make sandcastles or something. All of a sudden, you're just that kind of person. You're meant to be a creator. And like I said, I believe everybody's a creator. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if it's sandcastles or simply being able to have an art of a discussion or a conversation, the art of telling a joke. Anybody can be an artist, because everything, I believe, is a form of art.
Dude, that's so great. And it's true. I really believe that we were all meant to be creators of some sort, right? And when people own up to it and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to walk the path that others have trod. I want to create my own thing and make my own path come to life. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Now, you have done a variety of things, and and we were just talking a little bit about this before, but like music and film have been like kind of where you've landed as like this is kind of where I'm at, right? So Would you say that your music career first was the thing that took off, or were you like, I want to go into acting first, or how did that all come about?
So there's a lot of twists and turns in my story.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
Where to begin, where not to begin,
Sure.
where to kind of curve around the certain walls
Sure.
is an interesting path. But I think it's easy to say that I did not want to be in the spotlight. And I'm not saying that I do.
Okay.
I do not consider myself famous by any means. Because today the word fame is a whole different ordeal. People can pay for fame. You can pay for a following.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you can to hack the system to create this, pseudo fame in today's world. So fame really doesn't mean anything to me, especially growing up with it.
Yeah.
Because I was always in that spotlight. I couldn't go to the grocery store with my dad.
Wow.
Especially with any of my family, if they're, without being, hey, can I get a photo? Back in the day we did a lot of autographs, or my dad did a lot of autographs, and they would ask me as a kid, can you sign this too? I mean, you're his son, right? Yeah. Can you sign this as well? And people have pictures of me as a child that they would post. And I never thought it was weird at all. I thought it was just normal life. The rest of my family, some people who've grown up with that kind of circumstance, my family seems to be very cool with it. But I've seen people who have, like in their second generations of their first generation parent, be very uncomfortable with that kind of spotlight. But for me, I just always thought it was fun. So I was not weirded out by somebody asking me for an autograph as a child or a photo, with my dad, because that was every time I went out in public with him.
Yeah. Well,
almost every time.
Well, it's interesting because, we were talking about child actors or people that kind of grew up with fame, and it really gets to their head. I've seen like things like I have a good friend of mine, Alexa Vega. She's like in like the Spy Kids movies and stuff like that. And we did a movie together. And I remember talking to her, and I was asking her, "Hey, you've been in tons of movies like since you were like a little kid. How did you stay grounded?" And she came from very Christian parents, and she's a Christian herself, and her parents would not let her get away with anything like because I'm famous now or anything like that. But what about yourself? Like, how were you able to stay grounded when the whole world, in a sense, was kind of like looking at you guys?
Oh, great question. Being grounded is something that can either be taught or is just kind of ingrained in who you are as a person, I think. As a kid, one of my cousins told me, she's like, "You're not like the rest of us, are you?" And I was like, "What do you mean like that?" She's like, "It doesn't get to your head. Like you're just like a normal dude." And I was like, "Oh." I always made it funny, like, "Oh no, you're just silly, that's fine." But to me, it's just like, it's a regular thing to be considered someone, "Oh, that person's in the room, let me give them attention." Well, I'm always wanting to give that person who's not talking in the room attention. Like the camera guy's here, him over there, his name's Branson.
Yeah.
That's my hometown growing up. Like, I'm going to address that he's in the room and that he's in the room and we're here. I don't just see you.
Yeah.
I see everybody in the room. And the one person who doesn't talk, I'm going to go talk to that person.
Yeah.
So that makes me somewhat, according to my cousin, from that conversation a long time ago. We were on a cruise ship when that happened. And like I said, that's a cruise ship where my dad was entertaining on that cruise ship. There was a lot of hype going on. Everybody wants to talk. And I'm over there talking to the person who's quiet. You learn about their life story, why they're in pain. How can I bring up that level of energy in the room? Because there's like a dip in the room and I feel it. And I want to go over there and
elevate
the microphone and go talk to that person.
Yeah.
Because they're not feeling as uplifted as everybody else. So I want to kind of feel what's going on and equalize that energy. If I can.
Dude, that's a really interesting and a beautiful way of living life, because it's true. Like you see a lot of inequality in the earth, among people and everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because, see, I came from India. I was born there, and I saw a ton of it. I saw a ton of it, and I always remember thinking like, well, what is it about me that, like, my family happened to have a little bit of money so that we could come to America, whereas right outside of my house were tons and tons of people living in cardboard boxes, right? So it's a very interesting dichotomy to see, like, the inequality of the human race sometimes. And it's cool that you're able to, like, recognize that and say, hey, you know what? In this room, that person isn't loved enough, or that person is too quiet. And maybe they choose to be quiet, and that's totally fine.
I've been wrong many times about that.
But other times it's like, they would love to feel loved too, and they would love to feel like this sense of like, oh my gosh, someone came and cared for me. And that's just a beautiful way to like live life and approach life. And I think like it's very empowering. So I love that about you, man. That's awesome. It's interesting though, because like, we were talking about like different music and artistry and all these type of things, because you said like it's become kind of normal to you. What is it about the art that has drawn you in then?
So I will say this. There was a time where I was, growing up and have my childhood and traveling the world. I can't tell you how many countries I've been to as a kid. And that sounds really, that's a prideful thing somebody could say.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just saying literally I've been to so many airports, I haven't actually experienced outside the airport in a lot of places, but I've been all around the world.
Yeah.
Then you have this chapter of being in rock bands in my teenage years, my early 20s. And then you have this kind of dip where I went into this 7-year period of just doing real estate. I learned about sales and I left everything because I learned at that point. I never wanted to do it as a profession. I made 2 albums before I was 21 and I distributed them out. I've since, pulled them back. And if anybody has those albums, let me know. I'll get them from you. They're collector's items now. Somebody messaged me. They have one that was pretty cool. So anyway, I had this period of time where I did not do music, art, anything. I literally stepped on my personality, stepped on my soul to make money. I made over $100,000 by the time I was in my mid-20s, cash. I had it. And I was like, okay, great. Now I can literally disappear.
Is that what you wanted to do?
I wanted to disappear. Like, I wanted to just, I've got the money. I can kind of, at $100,000 a few years ago, was okay for a 20-year-old. And I was ready to go. I've since had some dark stuff happen since then, where I no longer am in that position. But I was in this place where money was my focus. And so I had a life change. Something happened to me where I was back on stage and all of a sudden back into the same spotlight. I couldn't leave it. There was a time when I finally said, okay, I'm going to quit real estate. I'm going to do that. And I counted this, in the Bible, the number 7 has a thing, right? There's 7 days in a week. There's always 7 this. I had 7 times where God came into my life. If I may say God, if I may say
please, we're very open. We're very open to talk about God on this podcast.
Cool.
So
yeah. We were on The Chosen. So
we're on The Chosen.
Yeah. But 7 times God came into my life and said, no, you need to do music.
Really?
You need to be back into this spotlight. And I'm like, there is no money in the spotlight, having made good money in my 20s.
Yeah.
And, I'm 30 now. I'm not going to say I'm super old, but hopefully it doesn't show on camera.
You look wonderful. Yeah.
There you.
I'm 40 though. So there you go.
There you go. You look great. You look great. Wow.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
And either way, what I'm saying is that something happened where I had to make a life change, and I'm sure we've all had those things in our lives, right? Where we thought we were going one way. And I will tell you this: one of my favorite things that I quoted from something I heard in church, actually, but maybe I didn't even hear it in church. It's one of those things that you hear in church.
Yeah.
And it was a buddy of mine. Hopefully, I don't know if I can say his name on this, but he's doing some big stuff right now.
Yeah.
And he and I were backstage, and he was like, Erica, because we've done a few gigs together. And he said, Erica, I'm afraid that I'm doing the wrong thing with my life.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I said, let me tell you something I heard in church recently, and I hope I'm not misquoting this, but if you think you're doing something in life to pull off God's plan for you, let me tell you something. You're not that powerful. In other words, you can't do something without God keeping hitting you, because you're not dead yet.
Yeah.
We're all going to die someday, surprise. But the idea is that you are here for a reason. You're here to accomplish certain things, and God is going to do the best way possible by influencing somebody else. Even me with backstage with this guy, to just say that to him, because he said it shocked him. And then he kept going on the path that he was going for. And I'm excited to see him every time he makes a post and stuff, what he's doing with his life now, because he was at that kind of point, it seemed.
Yeah, that crossroads,
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for him, but if he's watching, but there are those moments where you feel like you might screw up your life plan, and that's not the case. I don't think that's in your
Dude,
power.
that's powerful, man, because, even me, I decided very early, I'd say early 20s, that I was like, I want to go into acting. That's what I want to do. That's my path. And I very quickly realized I can't be a musician because I don't know how to do music. But I was like, no, acting, that's my thing. That's my jam, and I love it, and it's so fun. Yeah. But it was very interesting because there are times I've definitely wanted to give up. There are times I've been like, dude, I'm not making any money at all doing this thing. Why am I still doing this thing? And then it was like, well, I'm not finding, I'm not able to, I don't know, didn't have I had all these narratives in my head, I didn't make enough money. I don't know if I'll be able to support a family if I get married, and yada, 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 all these different type of things. But at the end of the day, I remember, constantly being led back to this path that I'm on, and realizing, hey, you know what? That plan, whatever that plan is that God has for me, it is so powerful that like he's going to make a way for things to fulfill themselves and be awesome. And I just have to keep with it and keep doing things. And it's interesting because the last few years, things have gone well for me financially, and things have been picked up. And I'm like, wow, like I felt like I was in the bleakest of times in LA, and then things kind of worked out, you know. And it's so interesting to say for me to hear from you that like, yeah, I did real estate and I thought I was just going to disappear. And now all of a sudden God's like, nope, you're doing music, buddy. You got to go back to it, you know? Yeah. So that's an interesting story, man. I love that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you're still with us in this artistic world. Look at what
Dude.
you're doing, man. This is great.
Dude, well, you know what? Here's the funny thing. This happened because of COVID. Can you believe that? I started to do Zoom podcasts just for fun because the entire industry kind of stopped. And I just did it for fun. And all of a sudden, one of the people I interviewed happens to be the owner of this digital marketing agency, Lemonade Stand. And they're like, Sharon, why don't you come and do the podcast for us? I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm having so much success, like uploading my Zoom podcast on my Facebook and getting 12 views, 13 views. He's like, yeah, that sounds promising. Come and do this for me. I'm like, all right, sounds good. And so I came here and I'm doing this, right? So it was an interesting thing where I just did this because I wanted to. It felt authentic to me. And then it turned out to be an awesome, fun thing.
You're good at it.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about your some of your, like, I guess, acting roles, because I was so stoked to see you on The Chosen. And The Chosen's been like such a big thing that everyone like knows about. Can you talk a little bit about like your story of how you got involved in that production and how that all came up to be?
Oh, The Chosen. Who has not seen The Chosen? Okay, awesome. You've all seen it. It's an amazing show.
Yes.
Wow. It was such an honor. I'm going to start off with that. What an honor.
Yes.
To be involved, even at the extent that I was. And from what you told me, I'm excited to see your scene coming up.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Your part there. And even though we have our parts in it, it's just awesome to be part of something much bigger than ourselves. Like in our gigs, like in acting and stuff, we can be like the lead in a feature film or something, and that's a different energy than it was to just play a part in kind of the Savior's life, you could say, in a way through this production and kind of around it. And so the way that I got on The Chosen was just like everybody else, you audition. Mm-hmm. And with my part, I auditioned, and my manager, Michelle, was like, Dallas wants you to audition for this part. And I was like, I asked my assistant, Pepper, and who's here today at the studio, and she's like, well, we can do that too. And there's a different character entirely. And I'm like, do I look the part? Can I sound that part? So that's a different character. And then they asked me to do a different one. So I auditioned 3 different times for different characters. And the first 2 were, I guess I could say it now, the first 2 were just soldiers. And so we were studying, we were watching the episodes, and we were looking at like, hey, some of them have accents and some of them don't.
Right.
Like, I'm like, okay, that's very American accent, and that's very English. That's kind of more transatlantic as far as the very close together English and that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I got the role of Petronius, which is this first of its kind character in the series. I didn't see any other character like this, and I was expecting to be a Roman soldier. Yeah. So I walk in there expecting to talk just like another Roman guard, and I had a conversation with the dialect coach, and she said transatlantic. If you can do it, do it, because not everybody is doing it. When she's like, I've been asking them to do it and they're not doing it. Yeah. And so I said, oh, I can do it transatlantic. You know, transatlantic similar to English. It's very similar. She's like, no, don't be too English. Transatlantic is a proper way of speaking on stage. Weren't you a stage actor? And I was like, no, I did not do stage acting. I did improv comedy in character form, and I did pranks on people. But I did a lot of different stuff. So more like rock music, and I could do an accent and do these things. So anyway, long story short, I get this role of being this, what was it, Peps? Well-fed Roman. That was the name. Petronius is a well-fed, well-dressed Roman. So I show up expecting to be, what does well-dressed, well-fed mean? And I dress up in this pompous outfit. And I come out of the thing and I'm talking to everyone on set. Oh, I'm sorry. You put that down, put that back. Yeah. And it's just this English. So I took on this English role of this pompous, if that's the right word for it, kind of, transatlantic / English kind of person in accent. And so everybody on set thought I was from Europe.
Dude,
I did not.
So
and
great.
As soon as the method thing hit, because I'm very method. Everybody wants to say I'm so method. I never broke character. Yeah. I never broke character.
Dude, that's amazing.
Except for when Jonathan himself came out and met me.
Yeah.
I was in the midst of breaking character while having my conversation with him because he thought I was from Europe and from England. And anyway, that's a different story. I had a walk with Jesus. I literally had a walk with Jesus. Yeah. Back down to set to say goodbye to Dallas because I wanted to just do my part and leave. I didn't want to cause a stir.
Sure.
He's like, did you say goodbye to Dallas and everybody? And I said, no, I didn't. I didn't want to disturb anybody. He's like, everybody wants to meet. We want to make sure that we know who you really are. And so we were going to say goodbye to Dallas. Anyway, so he walked me back down to set. But this is a long answer to your simple question. I apologize.
No, please. This is amazing.
And I met people from VidAngel there.
Yeah.
They were the I think it was the owners of VidAngel.
Yeah, like Jeff and Neil, or who was it?
Somebody high up in, I think it was a wife of, I didn't catch their names because I was so busy just talking to everyone. I didn't catch their names, but they were awesome. They were so funny. They wanted pictures with me and they were giggly and they're like, where are you from? And I would just play it off and then keep going because nobody knew who I really was. And that was the funniest part about it. And so
I love that.
I never broke character on set that entire day. And I remember Dallas coming up to me. He said, "Do you know why you got the role?" And I said, "Why?" He's like, "Because you didn't overdo it."
So Are you serious?
I was like, "Am I overdoing it?" He's like, "No. I like it, but I mean, it's a different flair. I didn't even know you would look like this." I was like, "I don't know either. I thought I'd be a guard."
Yeah.
So I broke character just to talk to him real quick. So he's like, I like this. Okay, keep doing what you're doing. We're gonna make this work. So I played it up and did this. Oh, I don't like this place. I kind of picked up like the characteristics of Matthew because Matthew's kind of more detailed, and so I wanted to be like, oh, this place is gross, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of what happened. It just happened. I don't know. I loved what they did with it, the editing, and hopefully I gave them what they wanted. I was worried about it. So.
No, I know. It's such a nerve-wracking thing, right? Being on that production, because you get on set and you're like, oh my gosh. It's like, I don't want to let anybody down, I want to go and do what I did. And the thing was with me, I got the part the night before we started shooting it.
I think I heard something.
Yeah,
you said there's something like that on your Instagram,
Dallas was mentioning that. And it was kind of a crazy thing, but yeah. And the same thing, like a lot of times when I do an accent, they're like, hey, can you do an accent? They're like asking for an Indian accent. Oh. So I'm like, oh, that's mighty racist of you, but sure, I absolutely can. Absolutely, I can. But this was more of a Hebrew type of accent, and so it was like an interesting thing. And for me, I was thankful that like just being around the actors who have used this accent quite a bit. I'm like, okay, I can kind of like nail it a little bit. So
you pick up on it.
Yeah, I picked up on it and was able to do it. And I probably shouldn't talk too much about it just because my episode hasn't come out, but it is coming up in a couple episodes.
I'm so excited to see you and your.
It'll be very, very, very exciting. Yeah. So it's awesome. Now, one of the big things with the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast, and this is a podcast that's meant to empower youth, meant to empower young people, you know? Because so many people have like dreams and whatnot, and if we know anything, like last year was a brutal year for a lot of people, and they felt the weight of it. They felt isolated. They felt depressed, and so one of the biggest things we love to do is to talk about things that have gone on in our own lives that have been heavy and how we got through it. Like our own like lemonade stand stories, our own time when the lemons hit us pretty hard, and we're like, I've got to figure out a way to get out of this. And how do I change my mindset? How do I change my philosophy? So I'd love to like talk, if you're open to it, about any instance in your life where you're like, that was a hard blow, that was a tough blow, but I'm gonna get through this, and I'm gonna be stronger because of it. And how did you get through it?
I gotta be careful what I say here with these ones, but it would be a lie to think that this life is easy. Yeah, it can be considered simple in some ways. Wake up, go to sleep every single day until you're done, but it's not easy. I believe everybody is here to experience both the good and the bad. Because otherwise, how can we chisel our characters and become who we're supposed to be? I believe we have a destiny. We have a vision to essentially obtain wherever that comes from, whether from you or inspiration or from somebody else. I mean, the idea is that we're all trying to strive. Hopefully we're all trying to strive to be someone or something. And in the course of achieving anything, there's always going to be hardship, opposition in all things, as it's said. And so, I'm not going to get emotional. I'm going to hold that in if I can. Sure. If I do, it's all good. Yeah. We'll cry on camera. We do that. We're paid to do that. We're paid to do this. Yeah. And the best part about it is if we're good at crying on camera. I remember once I cried for, was it 5 or 6 hours, Peps? 5 hours in between there. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. Wow. On set, for a production because it said that in the script. And so in between the takes, there's so many people on there, and I was crying for 5 hours, and I was just drinking water and kept going. Everybody thought I was just freaking out, but it was great. I just kept it cool, but I was...
Wow.
You've done that, right? No drops? No
stuff? Dude, I have to do the drops,
you can
man.
Get it. Oh, okay.
I got to use drops.
I can get there.
I have a hard time because I don't cry that much in real life, you know?
Oh, I cry all the time.
You do? That's amazing, dude. I need to be able to cry more, you know?
It's all good, man.
Yeah.
There are people who can help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's...
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I need to talk to those people.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
you don't.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
No, usually I believe trauma is the best source of artistry, in my opinion. Why else would we create these monuments if, something had no impact? And usually impacts are, I think, there's the horse that's motivated by pain, or the dog who's chasing something just because it's there. Most of us are motivated by pain. And so a typical artist, in generalities, if I may say, were motivated by pain. And the best songs, the most relatable songs, are those, you just want attention. Charlie Puth. And you've got, what was the other one? The Gautier,
yeah.
How's that go? You guys sing me some Gautier. How's that go?
Oh man, I don't know any Gautier. Yeah.
But am I saying that right? I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But all songs are motivated by pain. You can sing any song, not all songs. A lot of songs are motivated by pain. And so loss, and I've had loss to the point of, bubbling up over my chest. I had a heartbreak once from somebody who, I won't speak negatively, but somebody who hurt me really bad, and it kept happening over and over. A heartbreak situation, so much so that I was put in an emergency clinic for a bit there, having surgery to cut me open because I was bubbling up over my chest.
So physically there was a physical reaction.
The doctor came. So the next day, he said, "Mr. Osmond, I can't explain it." And I'm sit there with the patch on my chest and just gushing out this weird pus and blood. And he's like, "I have the scar to prove it." He's like, if nothing happens to you, and from what you told me, this is a physical manifestation of a heartbreak.
Wow.
And so I've been through crazy stuff. I've had jaw surgeries. My entire face has been ripped off. I've got scars here. I've got scars here. So I have reminders every time I look in the mirror of what I've been through in life that I can pull from for lyrics, that I can pull from for trying to cry on set. Mm-hmm. I can use all of that for energy. And it's like the question is, well, you want to be too negative energy, but you've harnessed that, and you can use that for anything now. So I can do a really dramatic scene where there was another scene where I was in the mountains. It was a death scene. I was being shot. And I had people, every single person on that set was like, "Are you okay, dude?" Because I had to step away and cry it out and then come back. You have that's what we do as actors. We have to go there. Yeah. You just pull from those things, it's no problem. But we get over it, right? I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah.
That's life. That's acting.
But that's what it is, right? It's interesting when you have like these incredibly traumatic things that happen, and you're like, how do you break out of this, and how do you like make it, come out the other side and become positive and whatnot, right? I mean, I think about my life, and like anybody, right? I've had my own fair share of grief. I've had a lot of people close to me pass away, and that's been its own level of grief and pain.
Oh, completely.
I've had parents divorce multiple times, and so when you kind of go through some of these things and you have these like weird emotional kind of bonds, it's very interesting. I haven't even been that public with it, but like my grandpa he's probably going to pass away in like a couple of days or something, right? He's my mom's dad, and we're very close to him, and it's very interesting because grief and trauma, it's interesting what happens to me when we get faced with these type of things, because everyone, I feel like, reacts differently to this type of stuff. I react in a very eerily calm way, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like some sort of like some sort of like mechanism or something, but I sometimes feel like this need to like say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and just focus and like figure out like what are the logistical things that need to happen right now, and how do I solve the issues that are in front of my face, right? But we were talking about like weeping and crying. For whatever reason, when I do cry or I do allow myself to weep, it takes a long time for me. It's like, it's so bottled down. It's almost like there's like a subconscious thing saying, no, you can't weep, you're a guy. Because I've been told that a lot too from my family.
That's such a lie.
It's a lie.
And we've been told that.
But we've been told that, right?
Discover that for ourselves, yeah.
And so we had to discover this for ourselves. And so I would unhealthily not grieve. And
it's healing, man. The brain literally heals when you cry.
It's so healing, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like I have to like go to my own private place away from the entire world. And only then do I feel safe when nobody else is around to grieve.
Yeah, and even then you hear a bird, you're like,
and I'm like, wait a minute, oh, shoot, yeah, what's going on? I got dust in my eye. Don't look at me, you know? Because it's like this weird thing. But yeah, like I think we were talking about art, and everyone is an artist. I think there's actually an art to grieving. And when you're actually able to like authentically grieve, especially the pain that you went through, would you say that was like the thing that helped heal you from some of the trauma that you had in the past?
The grieving part of it?
Part of the grieving was as a healing factor?
I think we have to grieve. There's like a grieving, there's a cycle of, what's it called? There's a grieving cycle, a loss cycle of loss, where like part of that is grieving, and then the other part is, like coming to terms with it. The first one is shock, and it's not really happening, or whatever the case. Like there's a cycle for it. So grieving is part of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's an interesting thing because, you and I were talking about like some of the music that you've been writing and some of the albums that are about to come out. And you were saying that a lot of this is from my own trauma and my own pain, but I'm so excited to share this with the world because I really feel that it's going to impact other people and it's going to help resonate with other people. How is that going to do that?
So I released one of the songs way early on, about 4 years ago now.
Okay.
And it had a really great response on social media really fast. And when that happens, usually that's a really amazing video or really something people are connecting to. Is this person okay? They're connected to it, or it's shocking. Somehow it kind of went, minimally viral in my own world. And I used that video to relate to so many people. Like, I remember in the sauna, I showed the video to somebody. I just had a feeling I had to show, hey, do you need to hear this song? And I showed the song, and they looked at it, and they just started crying next to me in the sauna.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't need to say anything. Like this is me screaming and kind of crying, and I'm crying in this song. Like I'm going full out in this track. And I took it down.
You took it down?
Took it down. Because it was about someone ghosting me. You ever been ghosted?
Oh, dude. It's like the story of my life.
It's a thing.
It's the story of my life. I'm like, dude, it's like...
Oh, it's so dark.
It's like that Sixth Sense movie. I see dead people. I feel like I see them all the time because they just ghost me left and right. It's a story of my life. But yes.
Yeah. No, and this song will come back out, and it is about that. Yes, it's that feeling. That heaviness that's like, I thought we had a future.
Yeah.
And I have no closure still.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what? This is a perfect way to share that art. And I have the original vocals. We've already got it mastered and everything, and waiting for one more track to be finalized before we can release that album.
Yeah.
And then we have the remix of that song by a producer, Donny, a good friend of mine. He did most of the music that's distributed now. Because like I said, I pulled out my 2 albums before. That's like 28 tracks. And now I just have my songs currently, and one of them is with the band that has that song in it. So there are these 2 albums that are going to come out soon that will have those really wrecked vibes of just loss and being ghosted and destruction of what it is. And it's all true story, so I got to be careful when it comes out.
Well, you know what's so interesting? Man, that topic of ghosting is such an interesting topic because just recently, I would say like several, and mostly it deals with like relationships, or dating or whatever. And there have been several girls that like we connect, and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is great, this is awesome, and then next thing you know, it's just nothing. And I'm like, wait, what happened here? At first I was like, kind of like, I know this is gonna sound weird. At first I was like heartbroken and bummed, and I'm like, am I not worth it? Like, what's going on? All this stuff. And then like the narratives that go in your head of like, oh man, I'm like, I must, like, I need to overcompensate. I need to do more or whatever it is, Like, what do I need to do to be better?
I totally did that.
Yeah. Yes. And then I go into like this phase of like, like anger. I'm like, well, they don't deserve me, you know, like all this type of
lost
stuff.
cycle, yeah.
But then finally, I kind of got to this point, and I was talking to a friend about it, and then he was telling me, he's like, listen, you're a great guy, and if you're getting ghosted, that shows a sign of their own emotional immaturity and their inability to function. And if you're getting ghosted in the early stages, could you imagine like being in an actual relationship, or like marriage, for instance, and all of a sudden they decided, I'm gonna check out, this isn't for me? Because the truth is like relationships, friendships, and everything is based on choice, right? And people have to make the choice. And if you make the choice, but the other person doesn't make the choice, it's just never going to work. And you can't do any sort of forcing or any sort of manipulation to make it that way. Because if you do, then you will always know that that relationship was never authentic, and you would never want to be in that anyway. Anyway, those are all the things that I started like learning about and thinking about for myself. And I kind of came to like this certain peaceful place with it, where right now it's so weird because even recently I got ghosted by someone. And I said, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay. It just goes to show like that's where that person is in their life. But I can be at peace because I'm at peace with myself anyway, with that person going to come in or not. But I will also admit it becomes very harder if you have actually formed like a pretty solid relationship and everything, and then it happens.
Or what you thought was a solid relationship. Or what you
thought was a solid relationship and it happened, you know? And that happened to me, and it's a very challenging situation when it happens. And it's weird because I remember an instance that it happened to me, and then like she went on to get married to somebody else. But what was interesting was now I look back and I'm like, you know what? I am so grateful that everything kind of transpired the way that it did. Kind of like thinking about like God's plan and thinking about like how much like the Lord knows us and everything makes me very grateful, because I realized, wow, like even in the last several years, I've developed into a certain type of person that maybe I wouldn't have resonated with the person that I was like seeking after before, you know?
You have to change
but how have you been able to like deal with those type of things other than writing epic music?
Oh,
you know,
I didn't do that alone. That was a lot of help with that.
Sure.
But no man's an island, of course. I'm gonna throw that in there. But with that, just to recap what you were just saying about the ghosting thing, we're living in a world right now where commitment is not really a thing.
Yeah.
We don't need to be committed, because if you dump me or you ghost me, kind of thing, they would say I can find somebody with a swipe, and you're gone. Like I can heal, like you said, overcompensating. I remember when I went through this trauma, this time, physical, the crazy stuff happening, and there was even further trauma that happened where I lost all my money. That's a different story. That all happened about the same time, and to compensate for that darkness, I had to be in the spotlight. I had to say, hey, I'm valuable.
Yeah.
You know what? Forget all of the judgments. Forget all of your judgments. I'm going to become who you guys already assume that I'm going to be. I can go anywhere without anybody thinking, oh, it's an Osmond. You're going to go sing for me at my birthday? Yeah. I made a little video on that. It was my first video, happy birthday in the elevator. You're talking about compensating and dealing with this mindset of today. And with art, that can help with that. Yeah. Absolutely. So we all have those songs that, well, first of all, we know where we were. If you pick a song from some time in your past, you know where you were geographically and what you were going through at that time. Mm-hmm. So when you hear that song again, psychologically, you were reminded immediately, a sense memory, or per se, of what was happening. So that song is now a stamp in your life, and you can always go back to that song. We all have songs like that of, I know exactly where I was, what I was doing when I listened to that song before. So if I want to relive that, I can do that. And I made that song that we're talking about that's coming back out. I used that song to get to practicing, to crying and connecting with a character on film. Yeah. So that's how art has helped me to match those emotions where needed, I'd say. In
Gosh,
acting.
It's so interesting, like that whole topic you're saying of like overcompensating for darkness. That's an interesting thing. And I love what you're saying about like how commitment is not a thing anymore,
It's not.
It's not, and it's very interesting. Like, look, my grandparents, I've been doing a lot of thinking about them, and we were like looking at old photos just yesterday as like reliving experiences from my grandparents' life and everything. They got married. My grandma was 16 when she got married, and my grandpa was like, I don't know, 8 years older, so was 24. He's now 88. and she's 80. And it's so interesting because look at like the majority of her life has been with him, right? Like, and they have learned like what true commitment is, and they just like stick together. Like that's just what life is. You're with each other and you're helping each other out. And it's funny because like some people ask like, Sharon, do you have commitment issues? And I'm like, well, I have issues feeling like I'm going to be safe in a relationship. So maybe I'm scared to commit unless I know I'm safe, you know? But do I have commitment issues? I don't think I do. I think I would be able to be committed if I feel like this is the person and like I want to commit to. Right. If that makes sense? But it's very interesting because our society is in a place where, for whatever reasons, we're like, hey, oh, you're done. Well, I'll just go ahead and swipe somebody else. And like, I'm emotionally going to cut you off immediately. Why do you think we're in that place right now?
I feel honestly that a lot of it to blame would be technology and how fast it is. So I was just talking with someone today earlier about how, the attention span, of course, is gone. ADHD is a thing. I have ADHD, all over the place. And I'm using that for, my industry. If we could be ADHD and be creative and then we're hired to be that's great. If we're entertaining, we're doing we're talking. But the reason that I feel that we're all over the place is because, again, there's no need for commitment. We can easily get anything we want really fast. We don't have to have patience. Patience was a thing back then. Like I had we had to wait for stuff. What's waiting? If I wait for a second, if it's loading, you have loading issues on your phone. Oh, I'm done. You put your phone away. You're doing something else immediately. Like there's no muscle with patience because patience is a muscle. Yeah, I think. If anybody relates to that, that's just...
Dude. Well, there was this joke I heard this comedian was saying, and I was dying laughing. He said he lived in a world where he had to wait 10 years to watch every episode of Friends, And I'm like, oh, dude, that's amazing. Because like nowadays, it's like, oh, dude, you just stream it. It's like, wait, what? Yeah. So, there was a moment where, okay, great, you enjoyed it. Now you got to wait. Now you got to just do these things. Yeah. Now it's like instant gratification, And if you're not instantly gratified by this thing, I'm looking for the next shiny object. I'm going
to say it. Gen Z.
Dude.
I said it. Bro.
You went for it.
We're going to fist bump on that. Just kidding.
Dude, yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, make it awkward. All right, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe the majority of Gen Z generation, if I may speak as a whole, my friends who are Gen Z are lower energy than my millennial friends.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
We went outside. We played games. We actually hung out and socialized. We actually had a healthier lifestyle. Gen Z, they're starting to go down with their health. I mean, I do personal training as one of my things and like bodybuilding stuff, and I help people with their physiques. And, sometimes those younger clients they're a little less motivated when and I've called them out. Yeah. I'm like, dude, your parent wants me to get you to a place. I want to make sure you want to get to that place. And since then we've had a much better connection with some clients, but yeah, it's a general thing.
It's an interesting mindset, dude. Yeah. It's a very interesting mindset. And it always makes me wonder, I'm like, dude, I think we need to like really practice the art of not being on technology,
Oh, that is an art. To stay away from that thing like that. If you can stay away from this thing, just let it go. And just let it kind of, wow. I can't even, hang on, come back here. I need the attention. Post, swipe, everything. I need it. I can't handle that.
I'm telling you, and I'm not even a millennial. I'm like I'm like the cusp, right? And I remember the internet was barely coming out when I was in high school. And I was I remember being like
MySpace.
Yeah, and emails were coming out, and I'm asking my dad about this. I'm like, Dad, do you think anyone's even going to use this? This is ridiculous.
That's stupid.
This is the dumbest
Websites.
thing. And when I would call girls, I'd have to go talk to their parents first.
I remember that.
I had to call their landlines. We had a rotary phone. People don't even know how to use the rotary phone.
Crank calls. Remember those things?
Of course.
People didn't know who you were. It was so much fun.
It was so much fun. Now, we live in a world where we can't crank call each other. It's very upsetting. Very upsetting. Dude, this has been so amazing. I appreciate you being amazing on this podcast. You're amazing.
You're amazing.
Come on, you're amazing. So, okay, we'll both be amazing. That sounds good. I just want to kind of wrap things up a little bit by asking a couple final questions.
Sure.
What is your greatest source of joy right now?
My greatest source of joy is probably being with those that I love.
I love that.
I mean, when you are around people who understand you, then you don't have to be anybody else.
I love that.
And in the world right now where there's such facades and, just it's fake.
Yeah.
Whether that's Photoshop or you do a video and it's funny, let's do it again. It wasn't real. It was more authentic the first time. And it's like this. Now you have to pretend to be yourself.
Yeah.
So if you can, like you said, remove the technology for a second and be around people that you love and that love you and understand you, then you're not judged. You're cool. Everything's fine. And then you can actually feel life and touch this thing called, life. And
oh, dude, I freaking love that. I mean, my nephew is 18 months old now. He's such a cute little guy. And just this morning, he and I were playing together. And we went outside and he was like sitting in the dirt and like picking rocks up and showing me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and it was just so cool to see like the wonder in his eyes as he discovered a twig, as he discovered a rock.
Those are the days.
I know, dude. And he found a box. I don't know how he found this box and he picked it up and he started picking up his rock and his favorite items and started putting it in the box. And I'm just like watching him being like, oh my gosh, he's got complete fullness of joy right now. Picking up these little rocks and having so much fun right now. And it was so simple and it was so amazing. And just by being with him, I felt joy. Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing?
It's contagious, man.
It's contagious.
So is negative
contagious.
energy, though, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're talking about different energies, and they're both contagious, positive and negative. With the joy, what is your greatest fear?
My greatest fear?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, that comes from my deepest, darkest insecurities.
Okay. We don't have to talk about it then if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, being forgotten, being useless, being nothing. I think at a point we all can connect to feeling like nothing.
Yeah.
Because if you pause for a second. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Some people are like, what's going on?
Wait, what happened? What happened?
But
Why did they do this?
You can hear the humming of computers or just the hum, you can hear it exists.
Yeah.
But if you're part of that nothingness, then you're nothing.
Yeah.
And we all want to be significant to a point, even if it's just, to ourselves. That's my biggest fear.
Well, it's interesting. And I'm going to get a little scriptural on you.
Please.
That's okay. So
bring it on.
There's this, in the Book of Mormon, there's like this prophet. His name is Lehi, and he's talking about things all being a compound in one, Because, and he said, if things were just one body, they must remain as dead. And so I was thinking about this, and I had this religion professor kind of break this down to us scientifically. And he was saying that all matter, all energy emit heat. Mm-hmm. They emit some sort of heat, right? But when it gets divided and cut down and cut down and cut down and cut down and cut down, let's just say you could just divide matter up over and over and over and over and over and over again, you eventually get to this point where that piece of matter that exists no longer produces heat. It has what's called heat death. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, it becomes nothing. It becomes nothing. Mm-hmm. So when you look at it like that, and you look at the adversary, you look at hard things in our lives, sometimes it cuts us down over and over and over and over and over again until the point where it's I have no energy left. I've got nothing left. I'm nothing, but at the same time, our value, when you partner with God and you get filled with that light and that love and that hope, it's you become completely significant. You become completely whole without the need of other people telling you, oh, I'm valuable, without the need of overcompensating, right? So I just think it's powerful. So I love that you share that with me, because that is a deep, dark fear of mine as well, to get cut down like that.
Oh, totally. I mean, if you're stymied, if that's the right word, if you're halted with any course of action you're trying to take in life, some people say, I'm going to take that as a sign that that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. Or maybe that is the adversary in a way saying, no, you're doing the right thing. I got to stop you. If stuff comes way too easy for you, I think it was Marilyn Manson who said, if you're not being, if you have no trials or you're not being hated on anything you're trying to do, you're probably not doing something right. I thought that was interesting. And also with the light you're talking about, I just wanted to throw this in there. I've heard my younger brother is studying quantum physics. You're talking about molecular level stuff. Yes. There is no way to measure darkness. We always measure the light.
And why is that?
So, I mean, I just thought that was fascinating to throw that in there. If somebody somehow makes sense of that, he's a quantum physicist, talking to this guy is like, whoa, we're all connected on this weird level. But when you go down to there, when you talk about heat, I've never heard of that before, where the heat is gone, our energy, our frequency, our desire for life is gone.
Everything's gone.
Because we've stopped so many times. I mean, or being stopped. Sorry, the camera stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're God is light.
Yeah.
Right? And so we need the sun. We need to go outside. We can't function eventually when that happens. We need God. We need light.
Absolutely. And
just keep going, man.
Keep going. Keep swimming. You've got to keep swimming in that light.
You're going to hit walls. If you're hitting walls, you're doing something right.
You're doing something right.
Just keep going, man. Jeez, stop stopping.
Well, dude, you know what? I think you just answered my last question, which was going to be, what is the advice you'd give your younger self?
Oh, man. Learn time travel. Join me.
Seriously.
That's pretty good. I should probably write that down.
Pretty great, yeah.
No, I mean, gosh, I wouldn't tell myself anything.
Okay.
I would not tell my younger self a single thing because I want him to go through what I went through. And if he didn't, I would become weak.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm super strong, but I'm much stronger because of those things.
Yeah.
So if I could bear encouragement, though, I would say, you can keep go through it, but just know that, you're not alone.
Yeah.
That's another thing too. People think that they're alone.
Yeah.
That's not true.
And that's not true. And that's beautiful advice, right?
Yeah.
Like just knowing like, hey, look, life is going to be hard, but you're not alone.
It's not just going to be hard, Sharon.
Yeah.
Life is going to be destructive.
Ooh,
you are going to be, okay, was that one, if you're talking about scriptural stuff, or is it a talk or something, somebody was saying, you're in this house and God is in there knocking walls down and you want to be this cute little cottage.
Yeah.
And God's in there just busting the walls and destroying the roof and whatever the case, and destroying your garden, what you thought you had in life, who you thought you were going to be with, ghosted, for example.
Yeah.
What you thought you were going to do as a career. Look at my story. The money you thought you had, if you've been robbed or stolen from. I've been through that stuff. You've been through your versions of that. We've all had our versions of being destroyed, and we think that it's just life sucks. So I'm done.
Yeah.
That's not the case. That is you're allowed, let go and let God. Let him destroy your cottage so that you can become this mansion, and you are going to stretch. There's no comfort in the growth zone. There's no growth in the comfort zone, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Growing pains. Do you want to grow? We all want to grow. If you ripe, you rot. You have to grow.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt.
Yeah. But dude,
it's hard.
Yeah. And that's how we're going to end it.
Yeah,
Life is
good.
hard,
Sorry,
you guys.
that was me.
No, but
You
no, it
said
was
the final
amazing.
thing.
No, I loved it. No, seriously, Eric, this has been amazing, man. And it's been so good
You're
to
amazing.
hear you're amazing. Come on, we can keep going and going and going. This is so fun. No, it's been such a great experience because every time I'm on this podcast talking to someone, I learn so much about myself. And I'm so blessed because I learned something like that. And it's so great. And every time people come on, I'm like, this is therapy. That's what this is. This is therapy for everyone, hopefully. But I really hope that our listeners today can get something really powerful out of it, because you bore your soul today, man. And I really appreciate you sharing the advice and the things that you've gone through. And as a result of it, how we can all become better. So thanks so much, man, for being open.
Thanks for having me.
Man, of course.
Thanks so much for listening to the Lemonade Stand podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use to be alerted when we release new episodes. We'd also love to hear your feedback in the reviews, and if you or someone you know has an awesome Lemonade Stand story, please reach out to us on social media and let us know. Thanks so much, and have a great day.